Every time we get ready to roll out a show, the anticipation, the excitement, you get thinking, gosh, so many great conversations ahead, so much to talk about, and you got to squeeze it in on Tuesdays and Fridays to a shorter show. Why? I'll explain, but mostly you're saying to yourself now, if it's shorter, why are you still talking on today's show? What does accessible travel look like when it's done right? Marco Pasqua takes us on a journey through the Kennedy Space Center and aboard two of the world's newest cruise ships to highlight where thoughtful design meets real inclusion. Plus, Parasport Nation's Alex Smyth joins us for another Parasport Explain. We're going to get into his favorite sport today, Snowboard Cross. Now, folks, let's get traveling.
This is Kelly and Company.
Kelly MacDonald here. Always a pleasure to be with you, enjoying it as we count it down, folks, to our last show on June 27th. And please, we're still looking for your comments, your viewpoints, anything you want to share with us that we can share on the show. Nazreen Abdel-Majid and I really enjoy hearing and reading what people send in and just some of the very thoughtful things contributors and people have been saying. How are you today, Niz?
Mm-hmm. I'm good. It's a packed show today, so I'm excited.
Yeah, we get some really interesting conversations, just like we do when we have JJ on talking about places to go. We're going to get into a bit of travel. Today, Alex is making his last appearance with us on our part of the show, and then Parasport Nation will follow as it does on Tuesdays and Fridays, and Parasport Nation, we'll be mentioning this a little bit later on, a little more with Alex, will be sticking with the network. So you fans of the show who may have been wondering, well, hold on, if Kelly and Company's going, what's happening to my Parasport Nation? Sticking around, folks. It'll be around into the fall, so we're telling you that now, whether Nazreen should be opening her mouth or not and telling you that. She's, people sometimes speaking out of turn, but anyway, so we're happy to hear that for those guys, and we'll get Alex to speak out of turn a little bit about that too when we bring him on in a little while, but always glad to make those wonderful announcements and be able to say things like that. As a fan of something, you really enjoy that when you hear it, you know it. It's almost relieving, and sometimes, Nazreen, and I don't know if you can attest to this, feel this way, but you're kind of happy to hear, oh, so-and-so show has been extended, and it's almost like a guilty pleasure. Oh my gosh, I like that show, when you know anyone around you would say, you do? What the heck's wrong with you? That show's silly. Not that Parasport Nation is silly. You ever had that happen? Does a show come to mind, a guilty pleasure show where you know if anyone catches you watching that, your family saying, are you kidding me?
I mean, there's so many shows like that. I remember when I was younger, not now, all the Disney shows that I think of.
Really? See, Disney now seems to be so cool that I can't imagine people saying, you're watching that Dumbo? No, Disney,
it's
people
those
love it.
throwback shows, and it's those guilty pleasures where you're like, okay, people are going to think I'm so childish watching these shows, but then you're enjoying it. It's like it's just another night, and where you need a show that you don't want to think so much, you want to de-stress. It's just a empty mind, stress-free type of show. And that's what I think of those old throwback shows. So that's nice.
I remember watching cartoons when I was like 17, 18 years old. My brother used to love doing it too. And my dad really would bug me about Scooby-Doo because I enjoyed the original Scooby-Doo cartoon. I enjoyed watching those over and over again. And you're watching that again. Now, there were shows, don't get me wrong, lots of cartoons that there's just no way. To me, they were too ridiculous, too silly. I liked what I considered a more serious cartoon, of course, but that's what I considered Scooby-Doo. So that was one of my kind of guilty ones that I would still watch today. Of course, the Flintstones, because people do. Bugs Bunny, but there are certain ones that people accept you watch, especially older people, because they watched it. You're not going to get the gears for it. Where if you're watching something more newer now, and what are you doing watching cartoons for? And I used to say to my father. I used to laugh at my father because I'd say, you watch Jerry Springer. That's like a cartoon. What are you making fun of me for?
Right? Right? I agree with you on that. I do. But there's some shows that I'd rather the cartoon than the real life version, the live action version.
Such as anything come to mind?
100%. Scooby Doo. They made a live
Oh, I see.
action
Yes, yes,
version.
you're right. You're
It's
right.
so
And
lame.
one,
I
yeah,
love the cartoon version.
and I don't know why they step out. It's sort of like, asking the question why, and you get into this stuff about different series, like different eras, such as Batman or whatever, and you say, why would you change it? Why would you? And you forget that there are different audiences for so many shows, that even with the
Right?
alterations, there would be different audiences that would glam onto it and say, hey, I like this, or this is what I know. I mean, I know the 1960s old Batman TV series. That's what I know. Whereas so many people, when the movies came out, oh man, they're dark. But that was more true
Yeah.
to the comic and the original.
I'm even thinking about Lilo and Stitch that just came out. There's a live action movie that just came out. And I'm thinking, how did they make that into a live action? I love the cartoon version. Love it. It's definitely a throwback. I would still watch it to this day as a 28-year-old. But the live action, I was hesitant to watch it. But again, yeah, there's different types of audiences out there that have different preferences. But all I think about is me, myself. I'm like, I prefer the cartoon versions, the originals.
You know, you have to wonder. Nowadays, there's so much computer graphics and everything being done, so you can't even tell what's real, what's not, what's been computer generated, what's using more than the green screen and whatever. Back when they would take one of these cartoons, make it actual, real life with people playing the parts, there weren't the tricks as there are now. Now, half of this stuff is still almost like they made cartoons when they started to use computers and just made animation that way. Now you make, real action shows, movies with a computer almost as much as you're making a cartoon with all the stunts you might want them to do. So I wonder if the let's use real people thing became a thing because, hey, we can do it this way. We've got real life people. We're actually having to create these cartoon characters with more wardrobe, with more sets and stuff like that. Now, sure, you got to make them, but there's so much you can do differently. So it to me almost seems like, well, really, what's the diff? Why wouldn't you have just kept it or remake this as an animated? And I know it's to grab older people or a different bunch of people to watch it. So fascinating when you look at this stuff, Nisreen. I find it interesting because I'm never big on remakes of stuff because in my head, oh, it's going to be different. It won't be the same. And I think as a blind person, it would bother me because I know I'm not going to hear the voices of the people I remembered from the cartoon. I don't care what big name talent you're getting. It's still, yeah, but that's not the Fred Flintstone from the 1960s. That's not Alan Reed. Well, no, it's Alan Reed's past. It's hard to get Alan Reed. So there you go. Yeah.
So Marco Pasqua, co-founder of Meaningful Access Consulting, who's just returned from 2-week back-to-back cruises on Royal Caribbean's Icon and Utopia of the Seas, as well as a trip to the Kennedy Space Center. In this Earth Meets Space edition of Accessibility in Action, Marco shares what worked, what wowed, and what others can learn when it comes to designing truly inclusive travel experiences. Marco, can I just say I'm very jealous right now? But you could.
You definitely can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. It was a vacation of a lifetime. It was something that we planned for a year and a half. And honestly, for me, it was also just showing my daughter the vastness of the universe and space by going to the Kennedy Space Center, because that's been a long time bucket list item for me as well. So we wanted to pack it in all at once. And I come from the West Coast. So, if I'm going to go all the way to Florida to get onto a cruise ship to go through Caribbean islands, we're going to spend some time there. That's why we made sure that we were there for 2 weeks.
I love that. Can you walk us through some of the standout accessibility features you noticed that really made a difference?
Absolutely. So, Nazreen, you mentioned like it was Utopia of the Seas and Icon of the Seas, and you think, oh, well, these are two of the newest, largest cruise ships in the world. They're going to have exactly the same accessibility. And I was actually surprised that one ship versus the other ship did some things better. For example, on Icon of the Seas, they had destination elevators. Now, I'm sure you've used destination elevators here at home, but a lot of the times they're a super miss. You go to this panel, this display screen, you hit a button, and if you have low vision or you're blind, you're lucky if it actually reads out the call outs of the elevators correctly. And then it's like, oh, well, what letter or number am I going to, and where is it located? Well, what I loved about these destination elevators is there was an accessibility button that was just below. You hit that button, it was very tactile, and it would read out to you in sections, floors 1 to 3, floors 4 to 6. And when you hit it, when you get to the area you want, then it lists out each individual floor that you might be going to, and then it will tell you, okay, now you have to go to elevator I, which is located on your left, 5 steps over, type of thing. And I thought it was really fascinating that they thought about destination elevators in a new way, because I don't know if you've ever been on a cruise ship before, but getting to an elevator and then hoping that you're able to get on it, especially if you need one, like myself as a wheelchair user, is hit or miss. And so this was a big time win.
I have to say, I've never heard of destination elevators, guys. I didn't know a thing about these destination elevators that you were mentioning. This is really fascinating to me. So I just want to get this right. So you'd hit the accessibility button, touch the row, tells you what's there in that row. When you hit the elevator stops, once you've selected your floor, it's moved. And the directions it gives you is as the door opens or just as it's about to open? Or how do you tell it, hey, I need another to go somewhere else? Like I'm like absolutely stymied. And how did you learn all of this info? Just from experience?
Well, I got to tell you, as an accessibility consultant, Karen and I always look for the access features everywhere we go so that we can report back on them.
Of course.
And we were just blown away. We saw an accessibility button, and we thought usually when you see an accessibility button, it means accessibility for mobility. So when you hit a button, it usually lowers all of the displays or buttons to the height of somebody who's in a seated position. So we were like, I wonder what this access button is. And when we hit it, it made everything audible. And to answer your question, Kelly, what it actually does is it says elevator I, and it gives you time to go to that elevator, letting you know that it's, to your left and a few steps over, and there's audible dinging noises to indicate exactly where it is located. So it really does a good job so that you can actually say, oh, it's over here now, so that you're not scrambling going, oh my God, there's so many people around me. How do I actually get into this elevator? So I was blown away. Now, they did have them on Utopia of the Seas. I just thought that they were executed much better on Icon of the Seas. So I got to give them a shout out for that, which is really, really cool. They also had the standard stuff like lowered countertops at bars. So for myself as a wheelchair user, I could just wheel up, order something at the bar. I wasn't reaching up like I was a toddler asking for a drink, and I could actually see everyone at that level, which is really cool. But one thing that Utopia did really well that Icon didn't actually is that Utopia is the last of the Oasis class ships. It's a certain class of ship. And the thing I loved is that on their mapping system, they actually have iconography to indicate to people where certain landmarks on the ship are. So for example, there's a place on the ship called Central Park, and there's an icon of a large tree on the map. And I thought that was really cool because people with cognitive challenges or maybe English second language, using icons on the map to show these are where these highlighted things are, like a carousel, like a park, like a pool, is much easier to locate those things than just trying to read them out to yourself and then hope that's exactly the floor that you should be going on. So really, people sleep on wayfinding and signage when it comes to accessibility, and iconography is huge, and Utopia of the Seas absolutely nailed that. So I thought that was also really, really cool.
I like that. I felt that a lot of time we went from a society that went away from writing because of the reasons you highlighted there, which were excellent reasons, of course, if someone has any reading issues or cognitive situation where these things are simpler in a picture. For us, for accessibility, for audio, for screen reading, it became its problem. But it sounds like, Marco, we are finding those ways around it where our screen reader knows, ignore that tree, it means nothing to me, but the word tree means something to me. Central Park.
Yeah, exactly. And I would hope that, like, for example, something like Be My Eyes, if you were using Be My Eyes, Kelly, that you could point it at that map and it would actually be able to give you an indication of some of those key things in a way that actually means something to you, right? So I think that there's a way that you can use design and intentional design to really make sure that you're not only creating an accessible experience, but an inclusive experience that somebody actually feels like, oh, okay, I'm actually wanted here, although I have a disability. They've really thought of all the ways around making it easier. For example, even in my stateroom, the room that I was staying in on the ship, on Utopia of the Seas, which is arguably a smaller ship than Icon, but only by a little bit, the ramp out to the balcony of my ocean view room was actually easier to get up and over than the one on Icon of the Seas, which is the newest one. It had more of a slope on Icon of the Seas. There was like a cross slope. So again, it's interesting. You go on these very expensive ships and you go, well, they're some of the newest in the world. It's got to be all universal. It's got to be all the same. And again, there's pros and cons. So really, I say to anyone listening to the show or watching the show, do your research for what accessibility means to you, right? Because it's going to be different for you than it is going to be for me. And then, of course, I want to get into a little bit of what I saw at the Kennedy Space Center as well. But I want to give you a moment to comment.
I know Niz has something there. I just was going to say, because obviously every ship is going to be designed a little different to the foot or whatever. But I must admit, I'm excited for, and I feel it coming, is whenever you use like Be My Eyes or Ira and you look at something, there's so much intuitiveness that it has now, and you wonder how much is that AI connecting with whatever document might be online that it goes and finds, to where it eventually says you are looking at the Utopia map of the ship, and it's already pulling up that it recognizes what it is. Sort of like when people take a picture and they're standing in front of a building, and now that information's in there to say you're standing in front of said building, because I'm talking tourist buildings, of course, if you're standing in front of the Pentagon or something like that, where that data is just so openly available that the AI connects and can say you are, a picture of you in front, or a group in front of the Pentagon South Wall, or whatever it might be. Go ahead, Nis.
That's right.
Yeah, I was gonna say, exactly that. Now the location, so even if the building looks off, it would still know where you are. It would give you that idea. Mapping, exactly. So it's really, really fascinating. Really fascinating.
Well, in this case, it's also mind-blowing because I'm in the middle of the ocean somewhere, right? And so the fact that you're able to connect to Wi-Fi and it's able to pull this information, and I'm in the middle of the ocean somewhere, there is positive benefits to things like AI out there when it comes to accessibility and when it comes to collating information quickly. And I was just blown away by that. Now, transition from the ships to when I was at the Kennedy Space Center, this is the first time I've ever experienced this to the both of you. I could not believe it. We wanted to go to another area of the ship where the Atlantis shuttle was being held. And when they got the charter bus, I thought, okay, here we go. I got to get out of my wheelchair, get off, undo my seatbelt, and be willing to walk up the stairs with difficulty, but be able to do it in order to be able to go to this experience with my family. I was blown away when the staff were like, 1 second, let us drop out our side-loading lift and ramp from the charter bus. Now, I've never seen this on a large charter bus before, but literally it was like, something out of Iron Man, where all of a sudden the middle of the charter bus starts to expand and extend. And next thing you know, I'm seeing a lift coming out of the side of this massive bus. And they had the ability of sliding, the seating forward or backward to make room for as many as 2 wheelchairs per bus. And it was so cool that Braun Ability has a lift at the Kennedy Space Center on these buses for you to easily and comfortably stay in your assistive device, but still be able to experience all the joys with your family. And I got to say, my 4-year-old daughter was blown away by the rocket garden. This is where they've set up old rockets that are no longer in commission, and you're just walking around looking at their gargantuan size. And for her as a 4-year-old, everything is huge. But if you can imagine going up to these massive rockets and seeing the whole world in front of her expand and going, wow, there's something called the universe. Wow, the sun is that big. And it was just a real pleasure for me as a dad and a huge space nerd to see my daughter light up in that way.
That's
Nice.
so fascinating. Thank you so much, Marco. This was amazing.
No, yeah, no, it was a really cool experience. And ultimately at the end of the day, I want to say that this showcases the power, again, as I said earlier, of intentional design. When you bake these design features in, not only are you creating confidence for people, but you're creating independence for those with disabilities. And I really think that this is how tourism should go, regardless of if you're into cruising or not. People should start to think intentionally about the audiences that they're trying to invite, into their experiences, and say, how can we make this matter to people? Because there's that misnomer that many of us on disabilities, we don't make a lot of money. So why would we want to spend the time to make these improvements or these features when people with disabilities don't make enough money to go on vacations, which is absolutely not true. You just have to be able to, think outside the box sometimes to make these things happen.
Yeah. And I love that they made that happen. It's about comfort. It's about inclusive. It's about so much more. You want to feel independent, even with your family. It's a very different feeling than other places that don't even think twice about accessibility. So that's so great to hear. Thank you so much, Marco.
No, thank you. And honestly, I just want to say it's my last show with you all. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's a little bit bittersweet for me, because of the changing of what's going on the network and everything. But I just want to wish you both the best, everybody on the show the best. And I really hope that we get an opportunity to work together in the future, because it's conversations like these in our community that really, really matter. So thank you so much. You might see him on the surface that all we're talking about is joy and vacations and all these things. And there may be listeners thinking, I could never do that. But I want you to think within your own realm. What are you able to do, and what connections can you make? And shows like Kelly and Company, prove to us that the disability community is large, but we're actually quite small when you think about how much of us are interconnected. So thank you so much for the opportunity, guys.
Thanks, Marco. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon for sure. Whether you're cruising through the Caribbean or touring a space center, accessibility should never feel like an afterthought. These experiences proved that when design is intentional and inclusive, everyone gets to feel like the star of the journey. I love that. Marco Pasqua has been a wonderful addition to our Kelly and Company family and the AMI family as a whole. Thanks, Marco, for your thoughtful, honest, caring conversations on disability and inclusion. And the most importantly, thanks for joining us bright and early on Tuesdays at 7 a.m. Pacific time to tape these chats. We're so grateful.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And it's nice when places make it fit, like Marco was saying, and do it because it's the right thing to do. Okay, do it because there may be a grant that helped them pay for the accessibility, but there's also places that have learned, hey man, this is a market of people that we want. On Parasport Nation, we talk about upcoming events, parasport events in Canada and abroad. We'll find out how they're played and get to know athletes, coaches, and trainers. Let's check in with Alex Smyth, the host of the program. Alex, you're here for your last segment with us, so let's get into the topic, because we're talking a favorite sport of yours.
Yeah, absolutely. And it has to be para snowboard cross. It's a mix of snowboarding and BMX, where athletes race down a intricate course that has jumps, turns, drops, and they're all trying to get to the finish line first. And so it's excitement. There's contact, there's strategy, and there's also a lot of luck involved, because at any given moment, an athlete could crash. You get crashed into, multiple people get wiped out. It's all who makes it to the finish line first, and if you're in these like semifinal races, first and second, because the top two racers move on. And this is a sport for folks who have either upper limb or lower limb impairment, or a restriction in use or mobility. So those are kind of the two major classifications that athletes compete within this sport. And again, I can't emphasize enough just how much excitement there is from start to finish on this sport. This is what really hooked me in. It's like, yes, you're going off a jump. If you go off a jump and you don't land it properly, you could be, crashing. You could lose a lead. and then you're thinking, oh no, I'm out of this race. But further down the line, a couple more people crash into each other, or someone just loses some speed or gusto. It gives you a chance to come back, and we've seen that time and time again. So for folks at home, if you ever have a chance to tune in or check out Snowboard Cross, Paris Snowboard Cross, it is definitely worth the watch and listen.
Wow. It sounds so cool. And it sounds like that body movement, the skills that you have to have are tremendous. Alex, we've appreciated you doing the Sport Explained because, as you said, it's what you say. You see this, you catch on to it, you like it. Hey, man, I didn't know about this. And it becomes something cool that intrigues you to look at maybe the next sport. And that's what these segments with you have been all about. We've only spent a few months with you officially on Kelly and Company, but you've been part of now with Dave Brown. You've taken over some hosting before Parasport Nation even. What are you going to miss most about the live show era?
Well, Kelly, I mean, even prior to now, I mean, I remember the days when I was just a reporter or a broadcast presenter coming on your show, monthly or so, just getting to chat with you and the gang. So it goes back much further than that. But I think for me, what I'm really going to miss is the ability to just tap into what's happening in the cultural zeitgeist, whether it's something related to accessibility or politics or para sports or something like that, and really dissect and get into those conversations, because that was always the beauty of the live shows. You could literally have a conversation or an interview on anything. If it was relevant, if it was timely, you could get into it. And that's what I really enjoyed. It's the variety that we were able to explore on the program, from doing things like what I'm doing now with Parasport Nation, just on a more kind of gradual or kind of intermittent opportunity, to even like coordinating and getting the Auditor General Karen Hogan on the program to talk about accessibility in Canada, things like that. Like, there was such a wide gambit that I really treasured that time.
Wow. Yeah, it's that moment, right? By the moment. It's now. It's happening. Any favorite memory you want to highlight in that live show?
It was tough because there was so many good ones. Like, I'm still looking back. It's funny because I've now pigeonholed myself into being the sports guy, but during now I was kind of like in charge of the Paralympic coverage, and the fact that we could, like, it was a lot of work getting in coordination and getting the athletes on either the day of or the day after races and stuff. But I think for me, one of the highlights was getting Paralympic gold medalist Greg Stewart on the morning that he won the gold medal on our program that day. Yes. I think that was a really like exciting and proud moment for me. He's probably had done like 2 or 3 interviews at that point, so getting him right off a win and being such a great guest, I think that was a highlight for me.
Wow, that's amazing. And congratulations, because that is the anxiousness of creating that live show and being so, it's hard to dig into. Alex, tell us the future. What's happening with Parasport Nation as we end? You guys still exist.
Yeah. So a lot of great content coming your way on Parasport Nation. Last week, me and producer Jeff Ryman were in Toronto for the Canadian Paralympic Summit. So we have like 14 interviews from a jam-packed day with all these Paralympic athletes. Our first one is going to be airing on Friday. That is with Brittany Hudak. And then today, we had a really special interview with Jeff Harris, who is one of the coaches for Athletics Canada. He was awarded the top coach of the year, and he's coached athletes like Cody Forney and Austin Smink to Paralympic gold medals, to personal best, world records. So we get into the coaching side today.
Awesome. Alex, good luck with everything going forward as Parasport Nation sticks with AMI Audio, and you can find it, of course, on YouTube. You can find it as a podcast. Buddy, thanks so much for bringing so much to the show, and it's been beautiful working with you and having that opportunity over the last years and everything you give. Thanks, man.
Well, thank you, and best of luck in your future as well, Kelly and Nisreen.
Thank you. Alex Smyth joining us. Parasport Nation coming up next. Remember, right now you can hear Tuesdays and Fridays and on AMI Audio, but of course look for them as a podcast. Niz and I will be back on Thursday. No show tomorrow. Lawrence Gunther will be with us, and he'll be sharing how we can all become voices for the largely silent underwater world that covers 71% of the Earth's surface. And a new Robert Half survey of more than 1,500 hiring managers across Canada reveals they can tell when AI has been used to generate one's application materials. What does this mean for job seekers? Tune in as we visit with our friend from Robert Half Canada, Michael French. That's the Thursday edition of Kelly & Company. We're waving at you.
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly & Company. Follow us on all social media, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.